Welcome everyone to another episode of Into the West. I'm Charles. With me today are Ian, Richard, and we have a returning guest. It's Brandon. Also, shout out to Brandon, top supporter of our Into the West channel. And today we'll be talking about the legendary legions of Rise of Angmar. So previously we reviewed the book, but we focused mostly on the profiles. So we'll be diving into the 7 legendary legions that are in this book. And I think Brandon's excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about these legendary legions. I think there's a few standouts and a couple that are more on the fun side, and then not any particular that I think are a massive miss. More so, maybe they're hampered by some less than stellar profiles. But to me, a lot of these just hit exactly right where I want them to be as far as legendary legions go.
Brandon and I have gotten a couple games on Tabletop Simulator with a couple of these legions, and I believe he's also tried them in games in his local group as well. So I'm also excited to hear what his experience has been like.
So what's different about the legions from this book is that, one, it's coming after over 2 years since our last book. So it's really refreshing. We have all this new stuff, and we haven't had this much new stuff in a long time. Secondly, the lifespan of this book is a lot shorter than the other books because we know a new edition's on the horizon. Personally, I haven't played with or against any of these legions yet, so it's a little bit weird how this is all brand new, but we know everything's going to change in a few months. So yeah, it would be interesting to talk about them. We won't have just like months and months of experience playing within these against these legions, but we're just making these rankings based on what we think of how they might do in the meta if the edition was to go longer.
Well, it sounds like a lot of them are going to carry over probably pretty much the same into the new edition with that PDF they're going to release, because what they said in the article, it seemed like they're going to release it pretty much on launch, right?
Yeah.
See, hopefully they fix a couple of the things that are weaker.
All right, let's dive into these legendary legions. So the first legion we're going to talk about is Fornost.
All right, Brandon, do you want to read this one out, since I know this is one of the legions that you've been eyeing?
This legion is like the one that I was most excited about for this book. As soon as I heard about it, as soon as I saw the Arnor model, I knew I'd be playing it a lot. But essentially what it is you must take Glorfindel and Arnor. It does not specify which one of them has to be your leader. I personally always go Glorfindel with that between those two. You can also take Círdan, Aranath, the chieftain of the Dunedain, a captain of Minas Tirith, a high elf captain, Rangers of the North, Dunedain, and Rangers of Arnor, Warriors of Minas Tirith with their full kit, Knights of Minas Tirith, High Elf Warriors with their full kit, and Hobbit Archers. Only Gondor heroes can lead Gondor models, and only Rivendell heroes can lead Rivendell models. And then Hobbit Archers can only be taken by Rangers of the North or Dunedain, in which case they are treated as a minor hero. Special rules are Arnor's Defiance. Arnor cannot have his courage modified by special rules or magical powers. Power of the Elves. Friendly models gain resistant to magic. And the Charge of Gondor. Friendly Gondor cavalry gain +1 fight on the charge.
Doesn't seem like those bonuses do a lot. And then you kind of start putting it together, and it's pretty nasty.
So, big one that I didn't initially pick up on, but once I did, it makes it huge. It's friendly. It's not Gondor warrior cavalry. It's just Gondor cavalry, which means when you're on the charge, you have 2 fight 7 heroes in this list, one of them with a lance. So it's a big deal, and it's pretty scary.
That are, well, Annor's less immune to magic, but Glorfindel with the Fortify and Resistance, 3 free dice. Every spell gets cast at him.
Yeah,
he should be shrugging off everything.
Yeah. I love this Legion. For me personally, like, this is 100% a legend tier Legion, just purely on my own thoughts. Realistically, from a power level perspective, it's probably closer to a Valor. What I love about this Legion is that there's nothing in the game, I think, that sees this across the table from it and goes, I auto lose. But this list just has the tools that nothing really in the game, save a few edge cases, is just going to run straight over you. It's not fancy and it doesn't have a lot of tricks, but it's a good old fashioned meat and potatoes army that will get the job done.
Potatoes.
It is meat and potatoes, but it also has two very, well, one who's really points efficient, the other one who's just decent for his points, heroes that basically won't be stopped by magic. I mean, and or maybe like eventually you'll get through if you concentrate on him, but even then, that just means Glorfindel's off doing his thing the whole time. And then you have to deal with the fact that Kieran's supporting your backline and that magic is super disruptive, the passing spells that he has. So it's the traditional way of shutting down these heroes you don't really get. You can't really use magic to do it, which is awesome.
Having played the one game against you, Brandon, it really did feel like it doesn't have any weaknesses. It's solid all the way around, and then you have basically the perfect support hero in Círdan as well. Two efficient beat sticks, the caveat where you have to include both heroes. And of course that works at 700 points plus. Very solid all-around list, but then once you start going lower, it just doesn't have that flexibility, right? Like you don't want to be playing this Legion at 500 points. And unfortunately, that probably takes a few points off for me because just being a legend list, it has to be just good all around.
I could see some builds working at 500, but yeah, it's not great. Maybe like 550, 600 is where it kind of works if you take the two of them and just get the numbers up.
I find that they have the tools for everything, but then you have to have enough points to bring them all, right?
Yeah.
On that points efficiency note, Hobbit archers go a long way. You can get 6 Hobbit archers and a Dunedain for 55 points. That's 7 bows and a point of might. So they're not the greatest troops on Earth, but having just pumping up 7 bows for that cheap, for the price of a captain, is pretty nice as far as, we're talking low points. I could definitely see myself running this Glorfindel, Arnor, and then just a Dunedain with some Hobbit archers.
It's interesting to note that Rivendell Knights aren't in this list. So it's nice that the Knights of Minas Tirith get a buff because you're going to rely on them for hitting power, right? Because most of your line is going to be strength 3. So it's nice that they're better than just like your average Knights that you find in the Minas Tirith list.
They're almost exactly the same as the Knights of Arnor at this point.
Almost.
I mean, traditionally that is their weakness, right? Is they're only fight 3. So the rest of their stat line is solid considering they're lanced cavalry. It's just the fight 3. So getting to fight 4 it's big for them. Makes a big difference.
Yeah. I don't want to get too much ahead, but this one I think offers the most choice out of all the legions we're going to talk about. So I really like when legendary legions give you options for many ways to build it, and it's not just like your cookie cutter heroes that are auto takes and then you just choose the war gear on your troops. So I like that there are lots of choice here.
Many viable ways to build it and still be competitive. I'd add that caveat.
So what tier are we thinking?
I'm pretty excited to play this at like higher points values when you can get most of the toys in. The point that Richard made is pretty fair though. Like once you get to 500, it's not really reasonable, and then below that, you're gonna really struggle. But I'm still thinking Valor or Legend. Like it's somewhere in there, maybe like lower end of Legend. But I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I think I might toss my vote in for Valor as well. I do think it's well-rounded enough to be good against all comers, but it's also fair in the way that I don't think there's a lot of matchups where when you're going up against them, you're like, this is unwinnable against this matchup. So they don't have that like super skew.
Yeah, ironically, what holds it down is what makes me like it so much, is the fact that it doesn't just auto win any game. You still have to work for your win, but it keeps you in any game.
Very good. Play fair.
Let's jump into the next legion. Speaking of auto win, we have the Army of Arnor. So I'm sure Ian would like to go over this one.
I mean, it's the Arnor army list minus hobbits. That's what it is.
Devastating loss.
You lose the Hobbit archers, so you gain the 2 new heroes and the cavalry, and then you lose the Hobbit archers. That's the legion. That's the bonuses. The bonuses that you get for being a legendary legion are you get the basic army bonus. So you get the within 6 inches of Arvidui, everybody passes courage tests, including Arvidui himself. And then Malbeth buffs. As we foretold,
Pun.
Malbeth would be getting buffs. Not the kind that we thought, but still. Basically, his buff, his save remains the same, but for heroes, it works on a 4+, which is cool. Makes your heroes a lot more resilient. And then in addition to that, he also gets the Foresight of the Elder rule that Elrond has. So you get D6 points of like Foresight points that you can use to adjust priority rolls. So in terms of bonuses, I like that the fact that these bonuses aren't too crazy. They're not like overtuned. However, the list is already quite good at lower points values. So even if you add small bonuses, they're still kind of really big. 650 and below, this list is nasty. Just because of like the sheer numbers you can pump out.
This year, it won Articon Masters and got second in the Articon GT. And this was all before any of these new profiles and Legendary Legions. So like Ian said, I agree. The bonuses are nice, but that's not what tips them over. The heroes are nice, but even then, they're not too crazy, as we talked about in the last episode. It's the cavalry, because that's what kind of balanced them, because the regular warriors are so cost efficient that their big weakness in the army was their lack of mobility. But now that they have that, plus the lanced up cavalry, I mean, they don't seem to have many weaknesses. I mean, you can argue that they don't have a big beat stick, but really you don't need to, when you're running 40+ models at 600 points,
Yeah.
and then mid 50s at, 800 points.
It's also the fact like you have the tar pit ability so well, right? Because you're going to be spamming D6 troops that have a 5+ save. Even big heroes don't want to like heroic combat through that. They don't want to risk it, right? And you just, because of your numbers, you're going to be throwing the same dice as them or more. So what is that? Even if you have higher fight value, if you're throwing the same number of dice, it's like a 60-40 kind of thing. That means they're still going to be winning it like 40% of chances. It's crazy, right? I do think the cavalry are the big addition, but also the 2 extra new heroes are also quite big. Just having one of them that's fight 5 with a lance, that's very reliable extra hitting power in there, and getting a second strike into the list that is not on your leader is great.
I don't think Arnor needed a Legendary Legion with buffs. It was good already, but if the book is focused on Arnor, then they've got to have some new stuff. So I get it. I'm just happy that this Legion didn't increase Malbeth's saves to 12 inches. That was my main worry going in. At least with the 6-inch bubble, it doesn't scale as well at high points, so you could still find weaknesses to counter it.
It's still from 500 to like 700. I think it's dominant. 700+, maybe it gets into it's a little bit weaker, but you can still just spam out the pure numbers. Like I'm not convinced it's still not top tier at like 700+.
Oh yeah, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, it just has.
I hate
more
this
weakness.
Legion. I hate everything about it. This is everything I don't like about Legendary Legions made manifest into one Legendary Legion. It's just the army, but better. And it absolutely is better. That being said, personally, if this was going to stick around for long term, I would say Legolas stocks would be going up, because you got to kill Malbeth in this Legion. And the heat-seeking arrow is a really good way to do it.
It was, but he's still got, 2 wounds and a fate. Legolas needs 5s to wound, and he has infinite 4+ saves.
Yeah,
Like,
I think you need a caster now to just transfix him to turn it off.
Is it active?
Yeah.
Although he's got 4 will.
He's got 2.
Does he get 2 will?
He's got 2.
4.
He looks like Irdan, but he has different stats.
2 is still good. Like 2, you can reliably relist a spell cast at you on 2 will, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going into him to immobilize him to stop it, there's at least one turn where he can pretty reliably throw his 2 dice and maybe a might point and stop that. It looks pretty gross.
Yeah, it is. I have run a couple games, and it's very, very strong. Just it's basically like it feels like playing the Dragon Emperor for the good side. And I know there's a lot of people who complained how, we've had rumors about how this supplement should have come like a year and a half ago. Well, maybe it's a boon that, we only have 3 months of this Arnor terror.
I would have gotten FAQ'd.
Can you imagine playing an 800-point game of the Dragon Emperor against this.
I did a 600 point of that matchup already, and let's just say it wasn't fun for either player.
That
Just,
doesn't
like,
doesn't sound fun to
happening.
even be anywhere near that table.
Okay, so the next Legion is Host of the Witch King.
I just wanted to mention that Charles didn't even confirm with us where this Arnor Legion should be sitting. He just placed it himself.
He just put it up and let.
I
That's
didn't
'cause he
think
got
I
it
would
right.
have anyone disagree with me.
No,
Got it right on the first time.
I think it should go into meme tier because you put it down and your opponent's just gonna cry. That's kind of a meme.
No, don't put it there, or else the guys from the Durin show will start playing it.
Oh no, never mind. Yeah, keep it up in Legend. It's too good for them to play.
All right, so on to Host of the Witch King. So in this army, you have the Witch King of Angmar. So here you can only take a horse or a armored horse and Morgul Blade. So no Fell Beast, no Crown. You have the Tainted, the Dwemer Lake, the Shadow of Rudar, Nazthak, the Shade, Barrow White, Angmar Orc Captains, Angmar Orc Shamans, Angmar Orc Warriors, Angmar Warg Riders, and Dead Marsh Specters. So you always have to take the Witch King. He's always the leader. So you get the Angmar army bonus, except it's 6 inches instead of 3. Ring Wraith models can reroll a d6 when making a cast roll or resist. So similar to a Morgul Crown. Witch King becomes 3 attacks, and he only loses a point of will when he loses the fight. And then he gets a +1 fight value when fighting a man model.
So my first impression is a straight nerf to the Black Shield Shaman. Can no longer shatter the crown.
And
What
Floyd,
tragedy.
Oh no,
because Floyd can't neutralize Legion bonuses.
no. This one's pretty spicy. I like
It's
it.
very strong.
Yeah, it seems strong, but it seems like quite fun to play against. But also, like, it's all about shutting down big enemy heroes. So if you go up against a list that doesn't focus or rely on big heroes, it's kind of going to struggle. Kind of like that new Arnor list we just talked about.
Yeah, it has basically none of the hitting power regular Angmar has, but the spell casting is turned up to 100.
Yeah, so the Witch King becomes your hitter in this list, which is why I actually think there might be a case for the Morgul Blade, especially when combined with like the Shadow of Rudauer and giving that -1 fate out and having Curse in the list, which I know you guys talked profiles already. Shadow of Rudauer is fantastic. 10 out of 10. Do recommend. Get him in this list. It's great. I did play a game with this list last night, and what you talked about with shutting down big heroes, my opponent brought Gwahir, Galadriel, Boromir, and Theodred.
Delicious pea soup on Thursdays.
So he was not having a good time with all of that magic floating in on him. But it's effective. It really is effective. But your troops die really fast, and you are relying on the Witch King to kind of get the job done. So it's a big brain army for sure, because it can go. I can see how quickly this could go bad for you if you misplay. Like, it will just fold up like paper.
What's a better way to add damage to this list? Add more Dead Marsh Specters or just orcs with two-handed weapons, sprinkling them in?
So yeah, I kind of went with the Blades of the Dead route, but I think the two-handed weapon orcs is also a way to go. I think you just need to pick one route and go with it. And if you're going the two-handed weapon route, probably bringing 2 Barrow Whites is the play. I never bring 2 Barrow Whites because I just don't think that's fun for anybody involved in that. So I went more the Blades of the Dead route. I brought 3 Dead Marsh Specters, the Shadow, Barrow White, cutting through that courage. And we played that the Shadow of Rudauer's courage debuff stacks with Harbinger. So that was effective. It doesn't really say, and I don't think we're getting an FAQ, but it was effective. And the 6-inch bubble on the Terror actually allows you to spread out quite a bit, which you're going to have at higher points. You're going to have a ton of numbers in this list. I was rocking 5 heroes and 50 models in my 800 point list.
Speaking of Blades of the Dead, the Shade also has Blades of the Dead and has 2 attacks. So that's another option. So speaking of, I guess, the right way to do Legendary Legions, I think this is a very cool one as well, because maybe it's because we haven't had the time, obviously, but I don't see a clear way of the optimal way to build this Legion yet. There seems to be several different picks. Like you could go with the Shade, you could go with the Shadow, you could go with the double barrel white. I'm
Or
not quite
triple
sure
rate.
what is more competitive.
Props to the game designers for making Dwemer Lake playable. I didn't think we were going to get that this edition, but I think that he's actually maybe a viable option. Maybe not the best way to play this Legion, but he's good.
But he's
No,
got 16 will though, right?
Yeah, I've seen some mock lists of triple Wraith, and that looks nasty too.
Yeah, that many will with a reroll is
You don't need the might.
yeah, it's pretty zesty. Or you have a Shade, you can throw a Shade in the list too, and then get the +1s to. Yeah, it's
The Shade is his might.
yeah, and also just the addition of the Shade into the list takes away the weakness that you would have to shooting, right? Like mass orc spam usually is pretty weak to shooting. Throw in a Shade, you get rid of that, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty spicy list.
So where are we thinking?
I would say this is a legend.
Ooh, that's interesting. I mean, you're the only one here that has played this Legion so far. I was going to go with either like a high valor or like a low legend. I'm not opposed to a legend rating here.
Yeah. I'm like bottom of legend, but like it remains to be seen if it's like up there or not. It feels like it has the potential, or some of the builds have the potential to be up there, just with all the shutdown and stuff.
Yeah, I think the biggest question is going to be how many people pick up Arnor in your local group, because if a lot of people start playing Arnor, this Legion stocks drop significantly.
So I've seen people build this one a lot at 800. I haven't seen a lot of builds at lower levels. Does it still kind of scale like at 500-600, or is it not the best? I'm not sure.
I think so. I think that the Shadow of Rudour is a great hero at 80 points. Barrel whites are dirt cheap. You can still get that magical domination with 3 to 4 heroes. You might be hurting a little more in the might department, though.
This one is a little bit tough because the reason why I'm also kind of teetering on Valor is because it's kind of the opposite of the Fornost Legion. There's some very, very, very good matchups that it just will roll over. But then there are also some matchups that, in theory, would roll over this. Like, I think we talked in our Discord, like something like dwarves. Like if your heroes, you're not relying on your heroes to break the enemy army, you're just going for like your strong warriors, and you have like access to fearless or very high courage, then I would be a little bit scared if I'm playing this Legion, because who cares if you're like casting on Durin.
Well, yeah, but that being, I mean, if it's Durin, that's a different story. But if it's one of the other, like for example, dwarf heroes, I don't know, just say Dwarf King, sure, or Balin. If you have 2 or 3 wraiths throwing black darts for the first couple turns, you kill them like pretty quick, and then their fearless goes away. Like it still has counterplay against that, is what I mean. Like if you're taking multiple wraiths, right? You can there is counterplay against the heroes, not just shutdown.
Yeah, I think the thing I'd hate the most to see with this list probably would be something like Iron Hills. It's just a big fat bubble of fearless and fight 4 troops that are super tanky.
In my mind, the Fornost Legion counters this pretty well too. Glorfindel would be a tank against cutting down just regular orcs. There's not a lot of high defense to stand in his path. And then you have Círdan. And yes, you have a lot of casting, but it almost feels like you have to cast on everyone there. The regular Fornost warriors are also ripping through you. The Knights of Minas Tirith fight 4 on the charge and stuff. So if we're talking like just the stuff we've reviewed today, Arnor and Fornost counters it. But I do agree that there's a lot of meta armies with like big heroes, like even these soups that Brandon played. This army does really well against those really highly competitive armies. So it's so hard to say. Like it has big weaknesses, but big strengths.
What if it went up against like a Riders of Theoden list? That's still like a pretty common, not super high competitive, but like decently competitive, like Legion.
It might have too many threats though for it to shut down.
But they're mostly one will though. That's the thing, is like this list can probably pull one out, kill it, next turn pull another one out, kill it. I think maybe I'm leaning more towards like high valor right now, but I still think it could pip up into legend. But
yeah, I could definitely be swayed to the valor argument. Riders of Theoden, I honestly would not be scared at all, because I'm killing 2 horses a turn on heroes with this.
Yeah.
So that's pretty easy to do.
But what about like Host of the Dragon Emperor too? Like that one, I think it's not great. Like,
No. Although this
just
does
true.
have
The whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this does have the ability to neutralize Borgir pretty quickly.
Yeah. Pending the build. Like if they did the numbers spam one, then I think it's not great. But if they go for the fourth hero, then this probably wins.
Good with Top of
think I'm
Valor.
still at, that's
Yeah, that looks
Yeah.
good to me.
for me. Yeah, I can go above Fornost. I think it has a bit more chance to spike. Like the highs are higher than Fornost, but the lows are lower.
Fornost is just the picture of consistency.
Still my reliable old plow horse.
Okay, next one we're going to talk about is the Army of Carn Dum.
Oh man,
All
we
right.
have Dunland at home.
Okay, so this one we have Aldrak, Frake, Captain of Carn Dum, Angmar Orc Captain, Warrior of Carn Dum, Angmar Orc Warrior, Angmar Warg Rider, and Orc Tracker. So you always need to take Aldrak. He's always the leader. First special rule you get is Show of Strength. If a Carn Dum hero kills one or more enemies in combat, they go up one bonus fight value the next turn. The banners are increased to 6 inches, similar to Dunland, and all of Frake's incantations are increased to 6 inches, making him playable.
But
Ish.
Yeah, so the problem with this Legion is that you can half build it with orcs, but they don't have the Carn Dum keyword. So most of the bonuses don't trigger on them. If you want to run this Legion, and I'm going to say the thing everybody wants me to say, is you take 2/3 Carn Dum and you go 1/3 Orc Trackers.
Say the thing.
Yes, for the bows, because it's a meme that I do, but also I think just because the cheapness of the Orc Trackers makes up for the overcostedness of the Carn Dum Warriors, and you still actually will end up with decent numbers that way. And mass evil bows are actually not that bad because you can shoot into combat and do that shenanigans, which is decent.
I don't know if you guys agree, but when I saw this Legion and the profiles, they were a little bit of a head scratcher because so many interesting things that we're getting in this book. But then when I was reading this Legion, I just didn't get it. The synergies aren't that crazy, and the profiles are like Meowdrak is a pretty decent hitter and leader. I do like his rules, but everything else is just, I don't know. I'm not inspired by it.
Yeah. Well, it feels like they should be going after heroes. Like that's their whole thing, like with the troops and like the captains, but it's not quite there. Like if the captain gets his bonuses to proc, that's great. But then it's only at 5/5 with +1 to wound against heroes. Like that's still not that good. It's nice, but it's not that good. So
Do you think it might have play at lower points?
I think
No.
you can only play this at lower points.
The troops, the basic troops are so overcosted though. Like
Ian, what you were saying of 2/3 Carn Dum, 1/3 trackers, I was like, bring Aldrak and just orcs.
well, yeah, that's the other way. Yeah. Maybe as you do that, you forget about Freak, whatever his name is, and you just
Yeah.
go for Aldrak and like the 6-inch banners and spam orcs. Maybe that's the way you do it. But then your Courage 2. And like the orcs don't get the reroll bonus that Aldrak gives out. He gives the regular warriors rerolls, which is decent when they're Courage 3. But if you go to orcs that are Courage 2, like your Courage is going to be terrible.
Yeah, but I mean, 9 points for those warriors at Carn Dum is
It's so much.
it's bad.
At this point, there's no reason to play this Legendary Legion because if you want to play Aldrak, you just take him in regular Angmar. I think he works better there. You could do more stuff with him because he's, like we said in the last episode, he's not bad. He has his uses, and then in this Legion, he gets the minor buff of if he kills, he can potentially go up to fight 6, which is fine. But again, you wouldn't take a whole Legion just for that and then limit yourselves.
It's cool though. You get the like he's fight 6, he's doing free heroic combats, he's got the strength 5 and like the doubling wounds. Like it's cool. He
Maybe-
becomes awesome. But if you
maybe
go up
at,
against a spellcaster that shuts him down, you're boned.
Yeah, maybe Brandon's right. Maybe at like 250 to 300 points. Don't know if anyone plays that, but Aldrak and a Warband, maybe playable.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of things that are like, you would see at 400 points, Helmsguard, Hunter Orcs, and they just murder straight through this.
But they still just kill this.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's why it's bad.
Maybe you have to play 130 points and only take Aldrak.
He's
or
120.
120
125. Aldrak and one tracker.
Max bows.
Yeah, I agree with you, Richard. I think Aldrich's good in regular Angmar, although at that point he's competing with Gullivar and with Burdhur, who Burdur's actually cheaper.
I don't think he competes with Burdhur. Okay, we're talking about the profile now, but I don't think he competes with Burdhur. I think well, he does kind of compete with him, but I think if you're going to go that way, you take them both, right? So instead of having a gully, you have two smaller hitters that are both pretty decent.
I mean,
Yeah.
it does have 6-inch banners, which is
Well, that's the thing. It's like it feels like they were looking at the bonuses, they were looking at the profiles they wrote, and they're like, it's not enough.
It
It's
should have
not
been.
enough.
At least
What
give
if
it
we give
12-inch banner.
I think the Legion rules are decent. The issue is that the profiles are
Yeah,
underwhelming.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's all on the freaky guy and the regular troops that are just being overcosted.
If
That's
the
what
Carn Dum troops went up to fight 4 in this Legion, I think there's a discussion.
If Fraked made Carn Dum troops +1 fight,
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that.
Minor, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will say that Aldrak by himself is pulling this thing up to minor. He's just got the entire Legion loaded
Yeah.
up on his back, and he's carrying it up to minor.
It's that and the 6-inch banners.
Okay, so I'm with you guys there, and this might be just
Just play
a
Dunlop.
nuance. Yeah, but so I'm thinking like the legions that we've memed before in the past, like Men of the West. I honestly might be more scared of Men of the West because of the heroes.
Would you say it's below average at low points, which is what it's strongest at?
I'm not even convinced low points is where you want to play it.
If you go any higher than 500, Aldrak is going to be shut down like the entire game, right?
No, but just because your troops are so overcosted, like I don't think you get the numbers you want at like 400 points. Like I think you want maybe 500 to 600 is where it's like playable.
Mhm.
And then anywhere outside of that, you're not getting the numbers that you want for the heroes that you can afford.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd
guys
just be
convinced me.
interested in seeing how it actually plays out, but like on paper right now, it's kind of looking independent to me. Maybe I'm being harsh. I don't know.
I'm with you.
It looks horrible.
Well, we might have some Carn Dum fans in the audience, so let us know if you've had some success with this and where you think it should go. But I'm getting a little swayed.
I'm not going to fight for it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where you want to put it. I'm not going to fight for it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just so disappointed at Frake.
So mid. It's not even mid. It's bad.
I know we're not talking strictly profiles right now, but I'm going to throw this out there to you guys. A Carn Dum warrior is 3 points more than an orc with shield for functionally just the +1 courage, because the orc can piercing strike.
Yeah.
And the glory seekers rule, which you're never going to get because you're fight freaking 3.
Yeah. So we talked about this in the previous episode, but it's just they're in that spot with the basic profile where you're paying for all these points, but they're not worth a point each with the combination of the other stats that they have.
Yeah.
And just doesn't work.
All right, we're on to the Wolf Pack of Angmar. This legion just has 4 profiles. It has the Wild Warg Chieftain, the Werewolf, the Fell Warg, and the Wild Warg. It's been fixed so that werewolves can benefit from Wild Warg Chieftain Standfast. And the special rules you get in this legion are Leader of the Pack. So your Wild Warg Chieftain, that's the leader, gets 1 more Might, Will, and Fate in their Hero Valor. And then you get the Howl of the Wolf Pack, where once a game, you can use this ability, and then friendly models from this legion get +1 bonus to their fight value and can reroll 1 swoop. And then you get Protect the Alpha, where if your leader, Wild Warg Chieftain, suffers at least 1 wound, then he becomes a 6-inch banner. And the last one is called Feral Charge. Whenever a Warg model charges an infantry model, you get the knockdown as if they were Cav.
Yeah, so I played a couple games of this, and it is so much fun. In my opinion, the most fun legion in the book. It's pretty awesome. The Protect the Alpha rule, that one's a bit disappointing. I just wish that they get the banner all the time off the leader, because I don't think it breaks anything. and it would actually make it playable in the competitive scene. I personally think right now it's really, really fun, but it's a little bit more on the win half your games kind of thing at a tournament, and nothing too crazy. But yeah, uh, I think it was really well made. Not every Legion needs to be ultra competitive.
It looks like a lot of fun. Like, but you're still constrained by the fact that you have a bunch of one attack 40 mil bases running around, right? It's gonna look terrifying when you put it down on the board with like 40 models and they take up half the board, but they're still just gonna die because they're all just wargs or mostly just wargs. Yeah, the special rules are cool. I do like the choice though with the protect the alpha rule. Like you have to give up a VP, but then you get a 6-inch banner, which is pretty damn good. And like the fact that werewolves can get to like fight 6 for like a turn, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I played against this one game against Richard, and that was such a fun game. I got destroyed, but man, we had a blast the entire time. So, I mean, if we're talking fun factor, this would be a legend for me, but
Yeah,
I love the knockdown mechanic. It's like that's how I've always wanted wargs to work in the game, but they've always been just like one attack infantry. So I think this makes them so cool to see on the table and just I don't know, knock your opponent's army over theoretically if you can win the fight.
Yeah, you're not gonna win a lot of fights, but at least with this, like with that rule, you actually stand a pretty good chance of killing them if you do win. So
yeah. So I think from what I've seen, the best ways to play is at lower points, and I think going a little bit heavy on the Wild Work Chieftains is the move because they're actually really, really good in this Legion. They have might and they have 3 attacks, and when you call Howl, then they get fight 6 as well. So you can hero combat off that, and it honestly feels a little bit like Riders of Theoden for a second there because you're calling hero combats with 3 or 4 chieftains. They're all fight 6. They're ripping into warriors. So you can get a lot of tempo that way. There are some builds that go heavy on the werewolves, and I do think it's good to have a couple, but like the base sizes make it actually pretty hard to get optimal charges in. It's still decent value because you're hitting the fight 6, but even on the charge, it's 2 attacks, so it's not always reliable. You kind of have to roll hot for them to go off.
So, like, does this cap out at like 500 points, 600 points? Like, where would you say the upper limit of this realistically is?
I think it's probably like 600 and under. It's probably like decently strong. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a couple podiums here and there at some smaller events, but I have a hard time seeing them probably consistently winning maybe above 650.
Does it have much play against big heroes? Because other than the Howl, where you go up to fight 6, if you're facing heroes with like heroic strike, and do you just ignore them and try to break your enemy? Like, is that how you win games?
So aside from Brandon, I think Brandon played Hunter Orcs, which were smaller heroes, but I also played another game where I was playing Minas Tirith with Boromir, Captain of the White Tower. And in that one, again, it was only, I think, 500 points. I had 4 Wild Warg Chieftains. So he had 1 Boromir. I choose a turn to crash in. So Boromir's not fighting that first turn. And I just go for the warriors. Hero combat. And then, by the time Boromir can get in, yes, I don't have any answers to him. But hopefully at those low points, again, they have the one big hitter and I kill him faster than he kills me. So that's usually the game plan, I think.
I think out of the four of us, you're the one with the experience with this Legion. Where are you thinking?
I think I would personally go Fortitude because I definitely think it's at a good spot. It's playable, but yeah, it's nothing crazy. It's not going to change the meta in any way.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It seems reasonably competitive. It's what the people wanted. People have been wanting an all warg list for forever.
I mean, we had
That's-
one, but it was
Yeah,
it was a meme.
but well,
We don't talk
that was
about that.
riders, warg riders. This is just wargs.
There are wild wargs in that Legion. They just suck. Okay, so we're on to Arathorn Stand. So this is the Legion led by Arathorn. You also have Halbarad in the Legion, and then you have Rangers of the North, and you have Dunedain. So you have to take Arathorn, obviously. He's always the leader. The rules you get, the first one is called They're Dangerous Folk Wandering the Wilds. So it's the army bonus where Rangers of the North and Dunedain have 2 attacks, as long as they're on foot. So the Rangers on horse don't. They all get Woodland Creature and Mountain Dweller. And then you have Heir of Isildur, where Arathorn, whenever he spends a might point on a 4+, it's free. And then the last one is called Silent Ambush, where you get +1 bonus for deployment like in Maelstrom. And then you can also do a -1 when you choose what part of the board your warbands deploy in.
So there's a big note here that Halbrad cannot take his banner.
Yeah, I feel like this Legion was made more for Halbarad than Arathorn because then people will actually use the Halbarad model without the banner. But also, there's no way to sugarcoat this. Don't take this Legion. The banner is just it's worth way more than all the other extra small special rules that you get, and you get half of these special rules when you take the normal Rangers list anyway. The banner is worth more than the other two that you get.
Yeah.
It's mainly you're taking him for like the might regen, right? Which kind of reminds me of like Earl the Young's legendary hero special rule.
So this maybe outshines the normal list, which isn't right. With the like when you take the banner and that at like 300 points, maybe this is better.
I don't know. I'd rather have the banner, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't play Rangers at all, but my question is, if you want that much might, do you just take Aragorn?
In the Rangers list, yeah.
Yeah. Take
They're-
Aragorn and Halbarad with his banner?
They're not nearly as good without the banner, though, because the reroll makes your Rangers a lot more survivable. And also, none of your heroes can stand fast other heroes. So that Fearless on Arwen's banner is priceless.
Your troops are only courage 4, so like they're not great against terror stuff.
And to Brandon's point, the last thing you need in this list is more might.
Yeah. I think honestly, if you gave Halbarad and Arathorn both counted as a 3-inch banner to this Legion, I still think you'd take the regular list over it.
Yeah.
And that's a huge buff. But at least like it would make it kind of viable compared to the normal one, but I still think the normal one's better because of the Fearless.
It wouldn't even be pushing it, giving them fight 5, because this is kind of like the Dunedain in their prime, right? In their heydays.
Yeah. But no, yeah, it still wouldn't, because even your troops are still only 2 attacks.
Yeah.
So like with no reroll. So like, yeah.
Maybe they're just really careful when they do all bow legions now.
And they should.
Which like fair enough. But I don't know. This feels like the normal list, but worse. It's like the opposite of the Arnor Legion.
Would you just take Grey Company instead of this if you wanted to do a Legion?
Probably. Yeah.
You get the banner in that one, and it loses the horses for the Rangers of the North, but you're not going to take more than usually one.
Yeah.
If you take them at all. So.
But like you absolutely don't take them with a horse in this, because then they're 1 attack when they get stuck. They don't even have the banner refill to like save their ass if they get
10 points
countered.
for the horse. Yeah.
Maybe if they kept their 2 attacks when they were mounted.
And you have to take the Ranger of the North, which is already worse value than the Dunedain.
Yeah.
That's way too many points. You're playing 40 points for like a 1 wound model.
Yeah. So like the buffs are cool though. Like they're thematic and it's nice. Like moving around terrain more, reinforcing, that's really cool. But it doesn't fix the weaknesses of this kind of a list, like at all.
No. And taking the banner out of the list just gave it more weaknesses.
Yeah. It's not worth the 4+ might. Yeah.
So my big question to you all, fine gentlemen, is it better or worse than Carn Dum?
I think it's worse. Because if you want to take Arathorn, if you love Arathorn and you want to take him, you still take him with Halbarad, with the banner in the other version.
Yeah.
And it's more playable than this.
Well, we literally just said if you want to play Aldrak, you play him in Angmar.
No, I agree. That's why it's bad.
Yeah.
It goes down bottom. Yeah. No, we're saying the same thing. Yeah. I'm not making a positive argument. It's a negative argument. It's bad.
Yeah, right. So they're equally bad.
No, I think the Carn Dum one is better. The Carn Dum one actually makes the Carn Dum models a little bit more viable. This does not.
Ouch.
This makes them less viable. Oh.
Do you agree
Am I
with
wrong?
Do you agree with Ian and how much he loves Carn Dum?
Oh,
My boys.
it's real bottom of the barrel fight here. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna say yes. Nothing in here makes me want to take this Legion. I'd say leave Dunedain where they belong, which is in my Battle of Fornost list, leading 6 Hobbit archers. And other than that, just leave them at home.
And Yeah. When a legion is worse than its peer list, that's just so disappointing.
But it's like it's so sad though, because they messed up twice how to make this list work. Like in the original list, it was like maybe it would be good, maybe not. And then through playtesting, it turned out it was not good enough. And then they did the Great Company Legion, and we were like, oh, maybe. And no, that was still bad. And they had a third chance to do it, and they
Yeah.
still made it bad.
I mean, Great Company is at least fun. I played it in a
Yeah.
tournament, but
Yeah, but that's not because of the Rangers, I
it's
think.
because of the banner.
Well, you get all the other heroes, right? You can run the twins, Legolas, Gimli, all the big
Mhm.
heroes. You can have some
Yeah.
guy.
I think the regular list would probably be a minor, so I think this looks right to me.
All right, the final legendary legion is Burdhur's Horde. So this is a Burdhur troll chieftain led legion, and in this legion you get Burdhur, Angmar Orc Captain, Angmar Orc Shaman, Wild Orc Chieftain, Angmar Orc Warrior, Angmar Warg Rider, the Hill Troll, and Wild Wargs. So you always need to take Burdhur, and he's the army's leader. Friendly models in this legion get Woodland Creature and Mountain Dweller, also the same as last legion we reviewed. You get a fearsome foe, so Burdhur gains blood and glory, and whenever he kills a hero in combat, he gains a fearless special rule for the remainder of the battle. You get ambushers, so Burdhur's warband does not deploy on the board like normal, so after the end of both players' third move phase, then you can choose to come on the board either via the reinforcements rule, or you can deploy within 1 inch of a piece of terrain that it says wood, building, rocky outcrop, or similar terrain.
So I think on that last rule, this does need to get FAQ'd because who was it? Scott pointed out that if you play Contest of Champions, then basically half your army is just sitting off the board for 3 turns while your opponent's hero just racks up kills and you basically instant lose.
Well, not just that, right? Like stuff like hold ground and seize the prize. If you just have one warband, like in a low points game, you don't even show up. That's an instant loss. Reconnoiter? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You the opponent gets 3 full turns.
Well, a Reconnoiter, you can just spawn Burdhur like most of the way on your opponent's half and just have like 12 orcs run for the board edge while him and a couple trolls run at the enemy to like block.
Okay, that
I was
one
to say
maybe is
Reconnoiter is close to an auto win if you play it right.
Yeah, I think, yeah. But the other one's fair enough. The other ones, yeah, it's not like having it be the third turn is crazy.
That this was a you can do this,
Yeah.
not a you must do this.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he should be able to deploy normally.
Oh.
Yeah, any game where you start close to each other, if your opponent gets 3 turns just to like stomp on the rest of your army, no bueno.
Third turn feels really late. Because if you compare with like Goblin Mercenaries, that's second turn, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Even that feels a little bit late sometimes.
What I do like about this special rule is that one of the worries is that it's going to be a big warband with big bases, right? If he brings another hill troll with him. So I do like that it's within 1 inch of a terrain piece or within. So I think that helps it out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It makes pretty much all terrain viable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then with all the special rules that you have to negate the terrain and the fact that you're taking hill trolls in this, they're going to negate terrain anyway, right?
Well,
And Burdhur, like the special rule that he gets where he can become fearless, that's pretty cool. That's nice.
Yeah, I like
blood and glory.
this. It gives me Black Gate vibes, but instead of magic, you just have more monsters.
It looks like a lot of fun. And like I've seen builds at like 800 points, I think, that hit 40 models, and you're like, oh, okay, that's fine. But there's Burdhur and 5 hill trolls. What the fuck is that? That's sick. But also, what?
This one's a sleeper. You know, if non-hero monsters get buffed, then watch out for this one being the next meta list.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how hill trolls slot in, like if they are on a 50 mil base, but like with their reroll against infantry, like they're actually pretty reliable at winning fights and stuff. Like, yeah, it looks like secretly scary.
Let's not glaze over the best part of this list is that it includes the Angmar Orc Shaman.
Oh shit, yeah, it does.
Top tier.
Not for nothing, but this actually has some play because you have so many monsters. You knock down some strength, and then you're rending and hurling a little easier. That's
hilarious. Just wither down a warrior you have in contact with Burdhur right before the combat to hurl him an extra inch. Oh, that's a galaxy brain right there.
Dude, that's so big brain. Holy shit. I was thinking just like lower the enemy hero's current like or strength so they can't like fight the hill trolls as effectively, right?
Mhm.
Because like that's a bad thing for the hill trolls is they're only D6. But if your hero's only strength 2 or strength 3, you don't care.
Or if it's like Guai here or something with a strength 6, you lower their strength and then you hurl into that combat to knock everyone to the ground.
Oh my god, are Angmar
Did
Orc
we just
Shamans
find
viable?
a playable list for the Angmar Orc Shaman?
I no joke. I
Combo?
actually think there might be a way, like taking 2 of them and like one of these lists might actually work.
Do you guys think it's just a fun list, or does it have competitive viability?
I think until that rule gets changed, I don't think there's any competitive viability here.
Right?
Okay, well, yeah.
I think it's holding the list back, right? Because it says end of turn 3, so that's basically turn 4, right? Because you won't be able to move them till turn 4. And how many games have we played where it's just the whole game is like 8 turns?
End of the move phase, so they still deploy in the 3rd turn.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that you won't be able to do anything
Yeah,
until turn
yeah,
4.
yeah.
And if the game is like 7 or 8 turns, then he's not really around to use his like blood and glory and all this other cool things.
Hey, you'll be able to throw rocks.
Not even
Yeah.
on the first turn because this says it counts as moving half.
Oh, you won't be
Oh.
able to throw rocks.
Uh,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any competitive viability to this. I still think it's better than Carn Dum.
I think it's a minor here, probably.
I don't want it to be minor. I want it to be fortitude. Okay, if you can deploy normally, is it fortitude?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, fine. Because like it's neat. It's neat. I didn't think much of it until I saw those builds, which is like a million trolls, and I was like, okay, that's actually pretty cool.
All right. So I think before we end the episode, we need to give a caveat that our other tier lists, I think when we reviewed the Legendary Legions, we were well into the book cycles. We've play tested them, versed them at tournaments. I think this is one of the earlier reviews we've done just because, it's going to be a short run for the rest of this edition. So, yes, try to be nice to us if we're wrong, but we're probably right.
Yeah. A handful of games at most with some of these legions. The rest of them, it's all just like what we've read and speculated. So,
All right. Another galaxy brain idea here before we wrap up. What if you just solo drop Burdhur? So the rest of your army's already on the board then.
depending the warband space,
But you get your army on the board then. And
I
then your
agree.
opponent now has to worry about a 3-might troll popping up.
Oh,
Behind
who's your
them.
leader? Okay, that is actually smart though. So potentially for the first 3 turns, your opponent's just like, oh, I can't score leader VPs. So you stall it out into the death and force the draw. Big brain time.
Fun idea. I don't know about solo drop. I think it depends on the scenario, right? If you're going to a tournament and you have to obviously know your warbands in advance, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I would build this.
So yeah, he's only 1 will and he's susceptible to be getting like immobilized and stuff. But you're likely going to have at least 2 or 3 other trolls in the list, and you can just hurl into his combat and knock everybody down. It's tricky because like it can be really good once once Burdhur actually shows up. If he kills like an enemy hero, he's in the zone. Fearless, that's great for breaking. He's got his might back. If it's the enemy leader, I think he becomes a banner. Like that's a special rule, right? Yeah, this definitely is like probably better at like 500 points and like a little lower. I think it'll be fun. It could pip into fortitude, but yeah, it's probably minor.
Also, a quick thank you to all of our patrons over on Patreon for supporting us. If you want to see extra content, see videos early, and other perks, please check out all of the perks in the link below. Also want to say that we're doing a Patreon promotion where after 1 month of signing up, we will be sending out 1 pack of dice. The sponsor of the video, Baron of Dice, they make some great Middle-earth SPG dice as well as dice for many other games. Go check out their products on their website. You can use our promo code WEST for 5% off your order. And also want to thank Mithril Brush Painting Competition for sponsoring this video. If you want more information on the competition as well as how to enter and how to support the competition, just check out the link below. All right, so these have been our rankings of the Rise of Angmar Legendary Legions. Please let us know what you think. And thank you, Brandon, for joining us to break them down. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.